In vandag se aflewering van die Rally Dagboek sit ons gesprek voort met Richard Schilling, 'n werklike legende in rally in Suid-Afrika, beide as 'n mededinger in die spesiale voertuigkategorie, maar later ook merkwaardige impak wat hy gemaak het in motorsportadministrasie, nie net in Suid-Afrika nie, maar ook internasionaal. Hier is gedeelte 2 van ons gesprek met Richard Schilling. Richard, jy het tot in die 2000s meegeding voordat jy uit kompetisie motorsport getree het. En dit was nie eintlik dit was egter nie die einde van jou motorsportloopbaan nie. En jy het baie suksesvol oorgeskakel na motorsportbestuur, beide plaaslik en internasionaal. Wat kan jy ons vertel van daardie era van jou loopbaan waar jy die oorgang moes maak en wat het jou gedryf om te besluit om verder in motorsportadministrasie en organisering te beweeg?
Well, let me say first of all, I decided that I had to slow down in my motorsport because it was time to make some money, and I had a big business I was building up, and it was a business as a supplier to the whole motor industry, so I needed more time for that. Okay, I think now this mustn't sound arrogant, but because of what off-road racing is, and I still call it off-road, and well, yeah. The success of the sport and the amount of people competing in that, people would look at the sport and say, well, what are they doing? And okay, I was very involved in making that happen. And that was why I was asked to then eventually become the president and helped with the move from AA to MSA and that. It was a good time. I can't say I found great difficulty sometimes in trying to come to terms with what the track racing needed and that. But we did it. I've always had one thing, which is when happened with John Salters died and that. I always believed you can't hide behind the reason or when running an event. Well, it's all people that are giving their own time, and so they're not being paid. I said, no, we have to be professional. We have to make money, but we must pay money to people. And so it became a bit like a business. And I think because it was run like a business, it was more successful than if it was always, there was always this problem about, oh, he's a volunteer. If he didn't do his job, well, you can't really go and tell him, listen, pull yourself together. So my focus has always been in motorsport. Run it like a business, and you'd be amazed that very, very few forms of motorsport in the earlier days were run like a business. Okay, and I will come to it a bit later on. But there was many reasons why some of those sports just didn't survive because they didn't have a business plan. Okay, we had to justify to the sponsor. Look, we'll give you this. We'll do this for you. You put so much money in. This is what we think you'll get out. But then we also couldn't just be 3 hours late with our prize giving. It had to happen on time. So that was, I was in charge for 3 years, I think, the president. Then I really worked hard, built up a wonderful business. But when I retired, or sold my business, very fortunately, Glenn Hall came and asked me, please, why don't you get involved? So I went back into cross country, that was then called, okay. I think that was in 2009. So the other thing is, when you run an event and that, and yes, when there are volunteers, it also teaches you how to manage people. And, volunteers are more difficult people to manage than paid people, okay? And I have to say that, many of the marshals, they do get some form of, or might have got, but they were still actually volunteering. They're doing it because they loved to get out in the bush. So you learned new management skills.
Ja. Maar vertel vir ons 'n bietjie van daardie era. Jy het genoem van 2009 rond waar Glenn Hall vertel ons 'n bietjie van hoe daardie wat daar gebeur het.
Okay, 2009, Pete Swanepoel was running it. He was Hannes's navigator for many, many years. very, very capable man. But Pete didn't want to continue. And so Glenn phoned me one day. Oh, and I used a Nissan engine. That's right. I bought an engine from him. So, and he said, wouldn't I come and have a chat? So I went and saw him and he said, would you consider doing it? So I thought, well, yeah, okay. But I said, look, it's going to be done the right way or no way. So from then onwards, we kind of made it a business, okay? And people were remunerated, not much money, but they were paid. But every event stood on its own two legs. There was nothing of one subsidizing the other one. Each event had to stand on its own legs and break even, at least, okay? And with that form of professionalism, and also with Janelle doing so well overseas, we started getting some interest from the Dakar people. And they, as you think, they came here and we started off with the car challenges and that. And in 2011 or 12, Jean Todt approached me and said, would I go and sit on one of their commissions, was the cross-country commission. Well, I'm going to tell you, I went there, a bloody lot of money. I paid in, my MSA paid a bit of money, and I don't know, Sonora paid some money. And we used to go to these meetings, and I really used to get quite irritated because it was just, I don't know. In any case, that carried on and on. One day I foolishly said, look, when are we going to work out a strategy for where our sport's going? Well, blow me down. About 4 months later, I get a phone call. Richard, we want to talk to you again. And so that's when I took over the sport. Okay. And that people there, they couldn't understand that this little country there in the south, it was there. It's such a successful form of off-road racing. And believe me, we were way ahead of them, way ahead. The way we organized events, the way we did things. Right, not I wouldn't say that much ahead of the Dakar, but then we met a lovely guy called Xavier, and he started bringing, we had the Dakar, and then I realized the Dakar was not part of the FIA championship. They had a fight. So slowly but surely, I managed to get the Dakar organizers to start working more with the FIA, and then more and more they adapt. They also had their own rules. They adopted our technical rules. When I say ours, it was the FIA rules, okay, which are the rules that we run here too. And Lynn and Neil and Whammy, we were kind of a committee. And we all said we've got to make sure we do our sport in such a way that it's on par with any international event. So route marking and books and all that started happening. So we aligned ourselves and even our technical rules. So we all of a sudden we were ready to take anything on. And then, well, as you know today, we've got an event in this country, but I have to say, I had a wonderful time as a president. Okay, I saw a lot of the world. I learned a lot, met a lot of people, went into all these countries where that war is at the moment, in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and you name it. But also, like in Hungary, we had a wonderful race. I went onto the border of Russia and Finland, and it was in the middle of January, and the guy started laughing at me because I couldn't talk, my jaw was so cold. Okay. So, but South Africa, all of a sudden, I was known as a South African guy. We got recognition, and of course, the kind of cars we were building that were becoming more and more sought after as a good alternative, and so that just put us on the map. Okay, so it was a great success.
Ja, dis 'n wonderlike stukkie geskiedenis wat jy daar met ons gedeel het. Baie dankie. Een vraag wat ek het is, ek weet dit is nogal 'n teerpunt veral met die Dakar is ekwivalensie tussen karre. Hoe kry mens ekwivalensie tussen verskillende karre? Was dit daardie tyd ook 'n groot storie geweest of nie so beduidend soos vandag nie?
No, it was. And there were some people who, when the cars were checked, didn't have as much horsepower as could be adjusted while you were racing. So they were tested with the low turbo low, and then when they got into the race, it would then it would click. But the moment they turned up the power, there was black smoke. Okay, and so we went in the dunes and we saw the car, we saw the black smoke coming up, and it's immediate disqualification. Okay, so that was a very big change where people started respecting that the rules were. It was a very difficult thing with equivalency and with these restrictors and that. But today I think it's far too complicated. Okay, but it did bring in the quality. It did bring it in. I think it's relatively even playing field today.
Ja, ek dink dit is so 'n belangrike deel van motorsport om as jy mens integriteit het in die motorsport kode en sporting equivalence of sporting equivalency.
Yes.
En ek dink as mens dit ook kan kan oortuig en oortuigend doen en mense kan sien dat dit word toegepas, dan is daar geen rede hoekom die sport nie net verder en verder kan groei, dat mense bereid is om dan miljoene te spandeer want hulle weet hulle gaan beskerm word met equivalency.
Yeah, I think, and you can see I'm thinking if I should say this. Yes, I'm going to say it. Cross-country racing was not seen very highly by the FIA. Okay, it was those people that play in the dirt. And today, it's a very, very powerful, important part of the FIA. It was like, well, who are those people? What are they doing? And we changed that. And when we got the Dakar organizers to become part of the FIA championship, then things started going forwards a lot again. I have to say to you also, a lot was done raced in Argentina. And Argentina is a wonderful country. If you ever want to, that's a country you can go and visit. Many similarities with our lovely country. So, yeah. Now we're in Saudi Arabia. I haven't been there. I did it in the earlier days. I went to Jordan, which was very interesting too. Okay.
Ja. Ek was gelukkig geweest om die kans te hê om Dakar toe te gaan in 2023 en dis toevallig waar ek en Stompie mekaar eerste keer ontmoet het. Ja, dit was vir my 'n besonderse ervaring geweest.
Waar was dit in Saudi?
In Saudi, ja.
Okay.
Dit het aan die Jeddah kant aan die weste kant van Saudi begin by die Sea Camp, ja.
Ja.
So ek hoop ook om eendag weer te gaan besoek en ja, dit was my wonderlike ervaring geweest. Bietjie terug op jou aandeel in motorsportadministrasie. Jy het baie lof ontvang vir die aandeel wat jy gehad het in die groei van rallyrijd, beide in Suid-Afrika en internasionaal. En dan op nasionale vlak streekskampioenskappe en wat uiteindelik die wêreld rallyrijd kampioenskappe geword het. Jy moet seker baie trots wees as jy kan sien hoe die sport op 'n georganiseerde manier gegroei het oor die afgelope paar dekades.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm weary. I have to say that I'm concerned about the costs. Okay, and that's becoming more and more. Not the words. Less and less people are able to do it at a national level. I think it's fantastic that the regional racing is as strong as it was, and it is again. And I think we've all seen in South Africa. South Africa had a Formula One championship that fell apart because of costs. We were leading in rally, it fell apart because of costs. And we just have to be careful that we don't, make it too expensive to race here. One tire is 15 or 16,000 rand, and they use 6. That was a year's racing for us. Okay,
Yeah.
it is fantastic. It's fantastic from a point of view that it's a great testing ground for international racing. You look at the wonderful drivers. I mean, the guys we got here that are racing, whether it's Century Racing drivers or what's his name, Latergan Henke. It's wonderful to see that, and he really is good. I mean, he's as good as any of those guys. There's no question about it. So, but we must just watch the costs. Don't know how you do it. I don't know the solution, but make it still run like a business. Yeah.
Richard, sê vir my, hoe sien oom die toekoms in rally-ry in Suid-Afrika? En wat se raad sal oom gee vir die deelnemers wat soortgelyk by die motorsport administrasie betrokke is, oom?
I think the regional combination, and I think regionals, we must make sure that keeps ongoing. They must not do. There's some things which I think are very dangerous, that they don't have restrictors. Okay, they got to use the technical rules that we have, because you can, without a restrictor, some of those cars are lethal. Okay, and the integration, I think they've made some good changes in the national level, where they've got the ones that run with the smaller wheels and that. Run it like a business. I don't know if it's viable for how long for this to be 20, the entry to be 20 or 25, because you're spreading the costs over those 25 people. But it would be, if it could still be used as a good place for testing for international events, yes. Money overseas is completely different to here. It's it, I know it. Okay, but I'm convinced that you're going to see other. I think from China is going to be the first time we're going to see people from China building cars. Yeah, they are racing already, but you're going to see, just like we see the Chinese buckies coming in, they'll come into the racing, and this is a good place to have them built. We've got fantastic engineers that build these cars at the right price, and well, let's see. As you can hear, I'm cautious about it. I just don't want it to become beyond being affordable for people. That's why the regionals are so good.
Ja, ek stem 100% saam. In ons weeklikse uittreksel op 'n ligter noot, en Richard, ons weet dat rally-ry en motorsport oor die algemeen is 'n hoë druk omgewing met baie stres en fokus. Maar is daar dalk 'n spesifieke staaltjie of twee wat jy met ons gaan deel van 'n snaakse of 'n komiese insident wat jy meegemaak het in jou jare met veldwedrenne of rally-ry?
Yeah, I thought about this. There was a guy, his name was Robin Yates. He's an Australian. He had a business here and he was working here. And he had the same car as Buxy, a race car, okay? And Robin is a hell of a character. I mean, really, really funny guy. And it concerns Bux. Bux phoned Yates one day and did as though he was John Salters, okay? Yes. He sucked it in. And then when Yates, and then Buxy found John Salters, he was quite a meneer, and he found Yates, and then Yates says, "Oh, Bux, man, fuck off." And it was John Salters. And that Aussie didn't know what to say. Okay. And he used to blow his trumpet at our prize givings. He arrived once to do a race. He as a navigator, dressed in a proper full suit, proper, okay. And he raced in that with Klaus Degener. And we used to. He was wonderful. I remember Bix and them stayed in the hotel there, and then in those, yes, it's the naughty. Oh, yes, it's in those rondavels there at the barber spun place. The what do you call them? A-frames, eh? Oh, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
The
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. I have such very clear memories. We went there, and the farmers had taken mealie bags and hung them in the trees. That was how we were supposed to find our way where to go. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And we left from that stadium in the middle of Deel. That's where the start was. We had a lot of fun as competitors. We laughed and well, might still be that way, but we had a lot of fun. It's very serious today, you know. Those days you could have a drink or two and still race the next day, you know. So nowadays it's very serious. I just think that overall, just the fact that we're out in the bush and we're doing what we want in the kind of environment we love means that it's enjoyable. And it's a good family. It's good for families too, okay, because they can all come and look and watch and see.
definitely.
And my daughters will they never will forget their off-road days going to races and that. Okay, so I think we're very fortunate to have a sport like that in South Africa.
Richard, jy het 'n interessante storie ook van Brett Cummings, Henk Lategan se navigator wat deelgeneem het in die motorklas in die Dakar destyds in Argentinië. Kan jy vir ons 'n bietjie daardie storie vertel?
Uh,
Ja,
I was
Brett.
I was in Argentina, and we were in the bushes, Murungon. We were watching these guys coming down a river, and then they got onto the bridge that we were standing on, and they went across. And his bike breaks down, and he stops, and he says, "I've got no petrol." Listen again. It's a South African. Okay, it was Brett. He ran out of petrol in front of us. Okay, we managed to go and get petrol for him, help him, and get him on his way. So you will never forget that either. He's a wonderful man.
Nee, maar Richard, nee, van my kant af, ek wil ook maar net sê baie dankie vir dit wat jy vir die sport gedoen het en ek dink ook met berge versit vir die ouens wat nog vir jare die sport wil beoefen. En dankie vir die pad wat oom vir ons oopgemaak het en ja,
it's an absolute pleasure.
Baie geëerd om met oom te gesels vandag.
No, it's a pleasure.
Baie geëerd oom.
Yeah.
Richard, soos ons nou einde se kant te staan, jy het dit reg gekry om baie suksesvol jou rally-ry loopbaan op te volg met dekades van agter die skerms leierskap wat gehelp het om die Suid-Afrikaanse rally-ry omgewing te professionaliseer en te internasionaliseer. Ek dink baie van die jong manne vandag het eintlik baie aan jou te danke. Jy weet, die feit dat hulle vandag kan deelneem beide op plaaslike vlak en op internasionale vlak. My indruk is dat jou loopbaan illustreer 'n baie suksesvolle oorgang van 'n mededinger na administrateur in die baie veel eisende sak van motorsport. Soos jy genoem het, aan die begin was dit dalk die lelike eentjie van die FIA, maar later het dit baie prominent begin raak en 'n groot deel daarvan is te dank aan jou. So weer eens, Richard, baie dankie dat jy deelgeneem het aan ons program, die Rally Dagboek. En ook baie dankie aan my gewillige en talentvolle mede-aanbieder, Stompie.
Oh, it's been lovely to talk to you guys, okay? I hope if we meet and out in Nikwe we can have a beer or two and have another chat. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for considering me. I appreciate it.
Baie dankie vir julle.
Thank you guys. Okay. That's van die beste, hè? Mooi bly, hè?
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Lekker dag. Tot plezier, bye.